Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now,
Unchained.media presents the B+ Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
number four, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more! I got 200 more holes to list!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B+ Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Sunday. You know what that means. It's time for All The Wrest. That's rest with a W. The W makes it short for wrestling. It's a play on words. This episode is the weekly episode where we sit down and we talk about all the rest of the wrestling world. The stuff that just doesn't fit into our Impact Zone, King of Sports universe, WWE universe, or Aussie Graps podcast. All the rest is with an asterisk, though, because we do have other shows where we cover Pure Resu, where we cover Brit Res, and so it's not really all the rest, but it's kind of all the other stuff that I watch week to week. In this case, we're talking Lucha Underground and MLW Fusion, and then we're going to have a look at the top headlines from around the wrestling world. Now, I'm going to bring you a little bit behind the curtain, much like I did on Friday's Aussie Graps episode. This is being recorded way earlier than I would normally record. So normally for a Sunday show, I record on Saturday afternoon. I do most of my prep Friday. I look for last minute headlines on Saturday morning and then I record in the afternoon when I get home. This week, however, Saturday, I am at WWE Super Showdown, the first ever live pay-per-view extravaganza from Melbourne, Australia. So I am traveling on Friday, so I'm not able to do the work then. I'm at the show on Saturday, so I'm not able to record then. I'm recording this on Thursday. So any news that doesn't make the show this week, anything that happened after Thursday afternoon, Australian time, of course, anything that happened after Thursday afternoon is not going to make it into this episode, and I will discuss that in next week's news when it comes to it. If it's something huge, something super major, I might pump out a bonus episode from my phone or something while I'm on the road, but that's neither here nor there. What we'll do right now is we're looking at the news. Like I said, behind the curtain, we're doing this on Thursday, so some things might not make it that normally would have, and for that, I apologize. But keep your eye on the B+ Facebook, and you'll be able to keep all up to date. Before we get to this week's news, let's take a look at TV this week. In this case, we're going to start with MLW Fusion. Now, MLW Fusion this week was a fantastic episode. MLW Fusion is a really good show. MLW is a really good promotion, and I recommend it to anyone. But this week's has a big old watch because there's a cohesive television show building towards next week, building towards the Fury Road events that they have coming up in New York. It was really the story they told with Jimmy Havoc and Sami Callihan was fantastic. So the show started with that. Jimmy Havoc and Sami Callihan are brawling in a hallway backstage. They're slamming each other's heads into the concrete walls. The announcers say that we're going to try to get someone to restore order with Sami and Jimmy backstage because they have a match later tonight. So we're going to try to get someone to restore order. But let's cut to the ring because our first match is Jason Cade with Rhett Giddens versus Myron Reed. Jason Cade jumps Reed before the bell, and Reed gets the upper hand and goes for the suicide dive, but Giddens is on the apron. Giddens, that X Factor, he's kind of like a bodyguard for Jason Cade, and he jumps up on the apron and puts a stop to Myron Reed's offensive attacks, and ultimately, Jason Cade gets the upper hand off that. Reed mounts a few comeback attempts and bails into the second ring. So this was shot during the same tapings as the War Games match. So of course the second ring is still set up. The second ring is right there, and they just sort of focus the camera in a way that you don't really notice it too much. But in this case, they actually played into it. He rolled out onto the second ring, and this is a highlight of the night. He did a diving stunner or jumping cutter where he cleared both sets of ropes and then came down into the cutter on Jason Cade. It was impressive. It was seriously impressive. Like, it looked so good. I definitely recommend this match. A highly athletic match. These are two middleweights. They're vying for the contention of MJF's middleweight title. We'll get to that in a moment. And these guys both really, really impressed me. Jason Cade's been on my watch list for a while, but Myron Reed I've never really paid too much attention to, but he really impressed me in this match. It was a really fun match. I definitely recommend checking it out. Ultimately, after that cutter, Myron Reed goes up top and gets crotched by Rhett Giddens on the top turnbuckle and then hit with a powerbomb variation and takes the L. Jason Cade gets on the mic, and before he can say anything, his former partner who he betrayed, Jimmy Yuta attacks with a missile dropkick from the top. So, of course, his former tag team partner, they have a score to settle. It looks like we're building to that probably for Fury Road, but we'll see. Jimmy Yuta, backstage, he's asked about it, and he says that if Jason Cade wants to hide behind his bodyguard and play dirty, that's fine, because Jimmy Yuta can play dirty too. He said he's here to fight, and he will make sure that Jason Cade pays for what he did. We then find out that MJF is going to be defending his middleweight title at Fury Road against both Jason Cade and Jimmy Yuta. You got to think that MJF is going to take advantage of the fact that these two guys have a personal vendetta, and MJF is going to walk out of Fury Road and still MLW middleweight champion Maxwell Jacob Friedman. That is why he's better than you, because he doesn't have that personal issue that's going to tear him apart. So he's probably going to take advantage of that, I imagine, and walk out of Fury Road with the strap still on his shoulder. Then we get a promo from Brody King calling himself Violence personified. He tells Tommy Dreamer that there will be no mercy and only judgment for the Innovator of Violence. Those two have a match coming up at Fury Road. It was announced here, and Brody King cut that quick little promo. So that's what MLW do a lot of. They build to bigger shows and they promo. A lot of the MLW Fusion is promo match. And there's normally 2 or 3 matches that are usually pretty good, but it's all about the build. It feels like an old school wrestling show. They're constantly cutting back to these guys, cutting promos and then building up what's to come. And I like it. I really enjoy it. It's one of the most fun products in the world today. After that promo, though, we cut back to Havoc and Callahan, who are still fighting. They're still fighting backstage. They're using caution wet floor signs and garbage cans and bathroom sinks, and he puts Sami Callahan's head in the bathroom sink and turns the tap on. I was like, oh, that's quite refreshing, Jimmy. Thank you. But, you know, they're brawling all around the place. They're destroying the arena. And then we get back to the ring. Shane Strickland cuts a promo. He's saying he's definitely still the ace of MLW, even if he doesn't have the title, and she's going to come for. But first, Filthy Tom Lawler is going to find out why he's the ace. So these two have a match, Filthy Tom Lawler versus Shane Strickland. They're fighting over who is the ace of MLW, which is kind of funny because neither of them are the champion. Low Key is the champion right now. But Shane Strickland says he's going to come for the title, but first, he needs to prove why he's still the ace and beat the, up-and-coming Filthy Tom Lawler. We then see MJF backstage with Aria Blake. He's trying to get an audience with Selena De La Rente, but it's not working for him because Loki is busy. Loki is busy preparing for his title match, and Selena is with him, so he's not able to get to see her. And then the camera catches up with Jason Cade straight after his match from earlier. Jason Cade is angry and says that Yuta pissed off the wrong person. He, beats the crap out of the garage door and walks off. And, like I said, their personal issue is going to derail them both. Neither of them are going to get that strap. Even though, really, Jason Cade could be a good middleweight champion, he's going to ruin it with this personal vendetta. That's what I see coming. MLW owner Court Bauer then joins the commentary desk to tell us that, unfortunately, the Jimmy Havoc and Sami Callihan match has had to be cancelled. They can't wrangle them backstage. They can't get them under control. They don't have the WWE's finances where they have massive security teams and access to police. So they're just letting these guys sort it out. They're still brawling. So next week at Fury Road, we're going to have to spin the wheel to make the deal. So they're going to have a spin the wheel to make the deal match where the wheel decides the stipulation of death that these two are going to have to adhere to. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Then we get another promo, this one from Filthy Tom Lawler. He's telling us he's preparing for one of the biggest fights of his life. He says he's going to bring the best, and he wants Strickland to bring his best so that they can find out who truly is the ace, who is the franchise, and who is the best in MLW. He says, "This is not Swerve's house." Swerve is, of course, a nickname for Shane Strickland. "This is not Swerve's house. This is a filthy world." I'm not sure I like that. I mean, this was a really good promo. Filthy Tom Lawler is an all-round superstar. Like, he has it, and I imagine it's not going to be long before he gets pulled into NXT, into the system, and probably ends up in a team or a feud with Matt Riddle, to be honest with you, because they're both former MMA guys. But Filthy Tom Lawler, he's fantastic, and this was a great promo. I don't know if I'm digging the "it's a filthy world" phrase, though. I don't know. It just didn't sit right. I was like, that doesn't make much sense. It's not Swerve's house because it's a filthy world. Like, the world's a lot bigger than the house. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what he's going for. I have no idea. Then we get a recap hype video for the upcoming Rey Fenix Low-Key World's Heavyweight Championship match. And then the match itself with Selena De La Renta at ringside, of course, for the MLW World's Heavyweight Championship. Phoenix takes control early with his fast-paced springboard offense. If you've seen Phoenix, you know what he does. He bounces around like crazy. He even hits a huge somersault senton from the ring into the first row, clearing the barricade completely. Low-Key early starts to try to remove Phoenix's mask, and he sends him face first into the corner of the ring, which busts him open. Overall, this was a great match. It went for about 18 minutes, I think, and it had huge combo move spots, like a sunset flip powerbomb, roll through, double stomp, springboard, top rope, Spanish fly. Just craziness. You definitely want to check this match out. Like I said, this whole episode of MLW Fusion, I give it a big ol' watch. This is one that you want to see. This match especially. Low-Key ultimately has Phoenix on the ropes, and Selena De La Renta at ringside yanks the mask off Phoenix's head. Phoenix is covering his face and trying to hide from the crowd, and then he ends up taking the big stomp from Low-Key, and that gives Low-Key the win. Selena and Low-Key leave, still holding the mask, and, ringside assistants have to put a towel over Phoenix's head to cover his identity. I don't know, it's weird to me. Like, I get it's the Lucha culture. The Lucha culture means that, when their mask is on, it's huge disrespect. They want to hide. But I always just think, what are you hiding for, man? What are you hiding for? Like, why do you need to be anonymous? I don't know, I don't understand it. I guess it is a cultural thing, though, I suppose. I'm not meant to understand it, right? Like, I'm not of that culture. And the whole thing is I just got to sort of respect it. But it just seems strange to me, like, why that would come at the expense of winning. I mean, this is a World Heavyweight Championship, I mean, who cares if people see your face? You're becoming the champion. Be proud. But, moving on. Sammy and Jimmy are still fighting, so they still haven't got this under control. Sami Callihan, Jimmy Havoc brawling all around the arena. They're fighting out the doors, and we end the show with Sammy trying to run away and Jimmy giving chase through the parking lot. Some say that they are still fighting to this very day. I wonder if they're going to run with that. They could post YouTube clips of them fighting through all the different states. Put like some music over it and have like the map and show the line, and then a little like an animation of like a dust cloud, and then go into a video and we see them, fighting at a truck stop somewhere in, Milwaukee. I said Milwaukee because that's on the tip of my tongue because I just watched SmackDown. But, and then they go elsewhere and on the map, and then they go the wrong way for a while because, hilarious. They go the wrong way for a while, then they double back and you see the line. And you see the line go maybe in a circle around New Jersey, like they got lost in the New Jersey Turnpike. I don't know. I'm gonna assume they're gonna go. Even if they don't go with this gimmick, in my head, Sami Callihan and Jimmy Havoc are fighting all the way to New York for Fury Road, and then they're going to spin the wheel and have their match. Very exciting. This show was fantastic. The story they told throughout with Sami Callihan and Jimmy Havoc was really fun, and I'm a big fan of that old school style of lots of promos and a couple of really good matches. So definitely want to watch MLW Fusion from this week. Next up, let's talk about Lucha Underground. Lucha Underground this week was another really good episode. We are on the road to Ultima Lucha Quattro. Ultima Lucha Quattro, Ultima Lucha 4. It is taking place in just 4 weeks. It's a 2-week extravaganza. Matches have started to be announced. Going into this show, we already knew Mil Muertes versus the Mac in a death match. El Dragon Azteca Jr. versus Phoenix. Pentagon Dark versus Marty the Moth Martinez. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We know that these matches are happening, and then we're going to build some more on this show. So we start the show with one of those really good classic Lucha Underground cinematics. We've got the scene is set, we've got the light, you got the sun setting, you've got the superhero music, you got Aerostar standing there in his pose on the rooftop, looking out over LA. And Melissa Santos approaches and she asks what the hell happened. He tells her he should not have done. He tells her he should not have undone what time had already done. Talking, of course, about Phoenix having had his spirit absorbed by Katrina. We had Aerostar undo that using his magical time travel powers. And so he's saying he should not have done that. But Phoenix was his friend. He says that when Katrina absorbed his spirit, she infected him. He wasn't supposed to get it back, but now that he has gotten that spirit back, she infected him and she changed him. And Melissa Santos asks what she changed him into, and Aerostar just says, something evil. But it doesn't end there. Melissa says she knows she can save him, but Aerostar says it's impossible. He's too far gone. She asks how he's so sure, and he says, because I've seen the end. The end of what, you may ask? And Melissa Santos did ask that very question. The end of what? Everything. Then Vampiro and Striker welcome us to the temple, and they say that Marty the Moth is here tonight to address the believers. See, they don't see what we see. They don't see the cutscene. They don't know that the end of everything is coming. Sorry, Mark Williamson. Sorry, Underworld Wrestling. I know you want to usher in the end of all things, but it looks like Lucha Underground are going to beat you to it. Aerostar, he can see the future, man. He can see the future, man. This is a time-traveling space alien superhero. Live and in the flesh. And he's telling us that he's seen the end of everything? We need to be scared as believers, man. We need to be scared of this, but the commentators, they don't know. No one in the temple actually knows this is coming. This is very distressing for me. Vampiro and Striker welcome us to the show. We're going to hear from Marty the Moth, which, I mean, who cares about Marty the Moth right now? The end of everything is coming. The end of everything. But let's cut to the ring. Exolicious, Evilise, and Joey Ryan are going to take on the Rabbit Tribe after the Rabbit Tribe cost them their Trios Championship match last week. The Rabbit Tribe, of course, are now Paul London, El Bunny, and the White Rabbit. The White Rabbit, also known as Killer Cross over in Impact and AAA. The end of the match comes when Killer Cross, or White Rabbit, he puts on a white glove and he hits the mandible claw on Joey Ryan. So the story throughout the match was Paul London would go to tag out, but Killer Cross would say, not yet. Sorry, the White Rabbit would say, not yet. Not this person. I don't want to fight this person. I don't want to fight. And ultimately, he ends up coming in against Joey Ryan. He puts on the white glove, gives him the mandible claw, and then when he pulls that white glove out of the mouth, there's blood all over his fingers. It's completely brutal. They win the match by knockout. Joey Ryan passes out from the mandible claw. And then we go back to the announcers, and they're hyping up Ultima Lucha Quattro. But for now, we're going to see Killshot versus Son of Havoc. Out comes Son of Havoc. He gets the win. But after the match, Killshot attacks, beats him down, wraps the dog tags around his knuckles and beats into him, and then removes his mask. So Papa Cueto's not having none of that. So he comes out and he announces that they're going to have a mask versus mask match at Ultima Lucha Quattro. That's going to be exciting. Big Boy Mikey's going to love that. He loves Luchas de Apuestos. That's a match with a wager. So we're going to have a mask versus mask match at Ultima Lucha Quattro. And the question here is, who's going to unmask? Killshot under the mask is Shane Strickland, and he is becoming a huge indie star in his own right, so they could capitalize on that. Son of Havoc under his mask is M-Dog, Matt Cross. He's already a huge indie star. They could definitely capitalize on having Matt Cross. So I'm curious as to who's going to end up unmasking. It really could go either way. I'm very excited to see what happens with this one at Ultima Lucha Quattro. Then we get Marty the Moth. He comes, the new Lucha Underground champion. He comes out, he introduces himself as the new Lucha Underground champion. Huge Cero Miedo chants. That title belongs to Pentagon Dark in the eyes of many of the believers. So they're chanting Cero Miedo. He just ignores them and powers through the promo. I think he could have sat out a little. Just sat out, let it breathe. Let them get their chance. Let them get it out of the system, and soak in that moment for a while and just said a little less, because he's not the greatest promo guy. He's not the greatest wrestler. But he could have just soaked in it for a little. I think that would have made it a lot better. But he cuts his promo. Basically, he introduces Chelsea Green, who we will now be calling Reclusa. Not a fan of the Reclusa name, but she's a queen of spiders, apparently. Her name is Reclusa, and people have been wondering where Sexy Star is. Apparently, Reclusa took her out. So Sexy Star had humiliated Marty the Moth in previous seasons, and he got revenge by getting Reclusa to take her out. And so Reclusa's standing there with Sexy Star's mask, and he says that, Reclusa terrorized her for over a year, and now they have her mask. He says that Pentagon Dark humiliated him even more than Sexy Star ever could when he broke his arm. And so he took what Pentagon Dark loves most, the Lucha Underground Championship. He then turns his attention to who he says is an incredibly sexy woman. Everyone thinks he's going to be talking about Melissa Santos. And Melissa Santos throws up the Cero Miedo in one of the best moments of the night. She just throws up that Cero Miedo sign. And, he sort of just shrugs it off. He's talking, of course, about his sister, because that's not weird, Mariposa. They have a very weird relationship. It's awkward. And he calls her out, and he says that, when he was down, she helped him focus. And he wants to reward her with a championship match. These two have a very love-hate relationship as siblings, so she comes out for a title match. Marty the Moth versus Mariposa, Lucha Underground title on the line. They do not go lightly on each other. Matt Striker, for some reason, says something about the way they were beating on each other being similar to making love in a hammock, and it all being in the hips. It was incredibly awkward, and I have no idea what he was talking about, but that's Matt Striker on commentary. I try to stay away from Matt Striker and Vampiro on commentary when it comes to talking about these shows, because I enjoy the shows for what they are. The commentary doesn't help, necessarily. Sometimes they have moments of brilliance, but yeah, this was weird. Mariposa gets busted open early, and they brawl outside the ring. Marty brings chairs into it, and that pisses off Mariposa. And she says, you want to bring chairs? I'll give you chairs. She buries him in chairs. Probably the best spot of the match. She spent 3 minutes just throwing chair after chair after chair on him. Just burying him under these chairs. Ultimately, they get back in the ring. Reclusa interferes, and Marty hits the package pile driver after doing the Cero Miedo taunt, and Marty retains the title. After the match, Marty says that he wants their Ultima Lucha Quattro match to be a Cero Miedo match. He says he will dedicate it to Mariposa, but for now, he's going to dedicate this to Pentagon Dark. And he breaks his sister's arm. He just like Pentagon Dark does, he gets the arm in the arm breaker and boom, breaks the arm. And before anything else can happen, out comes Pentagon Dark, and Pentagon Dark accepts the Cero Miedo stipulation. He basically acts as though, Marty the Moth is clearly crazy to challenge him to a Cero Miedo match. And he promises to break Marty's bones at Ultima Lucha Quattro because Señor Pentagon Dark, Cero Miedo, does his whole Spanish catchphrase bit, which I still don't know. I feel terrible that I don't know it, but basically he says, my name is Pentagon Dark and I have zero fear, but he says it in Spanish. And then, that's the end of the show. Now, for those who don't know, a Cero Miedo match means zero fear. It's just a hardcore match. That's all it is. It's just a hardcore match. But, Pentagon is it is his especial, as you would say. It's his special match. It's what he does. He does hardcore very well. Anyone who watched his match at Slammiversary with Sami Callihan, it was a match of the year contender. Back at, I think it was the first Ultima Lucha. I want to say it was the first Ultima Lucha. Back at the first Ultima Lucha, he had a Cero Miedo match with Vampiro, and Vampiro has not wrestled since. So this is how hardcore a Cero Miedo match can be. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Marty the Moth needs something like that because he's not exactly the best wrestler. And, Pentagon should be able to carry him through a Cero Miedo match to a watchable conclusion to the season. So that's going to be really fun. And that does it for All The Rest in television this week. Now, let's take a look at all the rest of this week's top headlines. Biggest news of the week for me so I like to start with WWE news and then I go on to the independent news. So let's do that. I was going to go with something else, but no, let's rewind. Let's take a look at WWE news first and then we'll get to what I think is the biggest story. So, WWE news section, I'm going to start this one out with something that's a bit more of a rumor. So there's nothing confirmed about this yet, but we've been hearing about it a lot over the years that WWE want to turn the WWE Network into a central location for wrestling television. They want it to be full of all forms of entertainment. That's why we see things like this upcoming Woke and Hardy's Halloween special, why we see reality shows, like Holy Foley, comedy specials. They do a bit of everything, right? They Vince McMahon, there's the famous story of, I can't remember who it was, but someone was was watching stand-up comedy on a flight, and Vince McMahon was like, "Oh, what you watching, bud?" And he's like, "Oh, watching some comedy." I was like, "Why?" I like comedy. If you like comedy, watch Santino Marella. That's Vince McMahon's mindset, is WWE does everything. You don't need anywhere else. So Vince McMahon wants you to get rid of Netflix and sign up just for WWE Network. Now, Vince McMahon is a lunatic, but it's an admirable goal, really. He wants to be everything to everyone, and that's nice in theory, doesn't really work in practice. But what I'm talking about is the WWE Network. There are changes coming in 2019, or so the rumors say. So it looks like we're going to start getting Progress, ICW, Evolve, and maybe some others on the WWE Network as promotions to watch. But we're also going to see, and we're going to see ramped up programming from WWE, like original programming, like their reality shows, their cartoons, all these extra things they do. We're also going to see it start to be tiered. Now, there's no information as to what the tiers will be. Here's my thing with tiering it. Like, if you want to take it so that a basic WWE Network where you get like the back catalog or something is only going to cost you $5, cool. And then keep everything now with the live programming and the back catalog as $15, and then maybe add the extra as $10, sorry, and then maybe add the extra promotions in at a $15 tier. I can get behind that. But if you start talking about $10, $20, $30 tiers, you're getting a bit much, man. Like, so I'm really curious to see what it's going to be, but essentially they're looking at adding more live programming from other wrestling promotions and adding that into another tier where you pay extra to get extra content. So theoretically, it could be really, really good and really, really awesome, especially if they ultimately, absorb the WWN network, so we get all of the promotions that are on WWN as well. That would be really cool, but there's a lot of potential for this to go very badly for wrestling fans, especially if they pump the price up too much. I can't see anyone paying more than $15 for a network. I really can't. And so with some of the rumors that they're looking at $20 and $30 pricings, one rumor site I said even saw like a $50 premium package or something, and no idea what's going to be in it, but these are the tiers that he supposedly wants. No, that's way too high. No one's going to pay $50 a month for WWE content. Sorry, Vince, you're dreaming. Well, actually, no, some people probably will, because people used to get the pay-per-views, right? The pay-per-views. I never got all the pay-per-views. Like, I got Royal Rumble, WrestleMania. That was it. Before the network, it was Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and then, you read it online or you find streams and stuff like that. There was, before the network, that's all. It was, like, growing up, those were my two pay-per-views I was allowed to get, because they were like $60 on Main Event, So I guess some people will pay $50 a month, because people used to get the pay-per-views, but I know, that's like next level to me. That's like different world stuff. I could not imagine paying $50 a month for WWE content. Sorry. It's not that good. I love WWE. I love professional wrestling, but I pay $50 a month, more than $50 a month on professional wrestling content overall. Like when you factor in, all the other networks that I have, like the GWN, the Ring of Honor, all of those. But for WWE alone, I couldn't do it. It's crazy. But that's what they're proposing is a tiered system for the WWE network. In other WWE news, Pete Dunne has made it to 500 days as WWE UK champion, making him one of the longest reigning champions of any kind in the modern era. To celebrate, he has released a limited run of shirts on his Big Cartel store. It says Bruiserweight, 500 days, it has a picture of a bear. It's pretty badass. He's a badass champion, so why wouldn't he have a badass shirt? I don't know why WWE don't make shirts for these guys, A lot of people's favorites are on 205 Live, are on NXT. I mean, NXT guys get shirts now, but NXT UK, why doesn't Pete Dunne have more official WWE merch? That's what I want to know. But at the same time, it's really cool that he gets to, decide his own fate and make his own merch designs and put them up on a Big Cartel store or a Pro Wrestling Tee store. It's really cool that they get to do that. And he's celebrating 500 days as champion with a new shirt. So if you're a fan of Pete Dunne, that's definitely something to check out. Also this week, Titus O'Neil has been chosen by Michelle Obama as an official ambassador for two different campaigns, When We All Vote and Reach Higher. Now, When We All Vote is aimed at encouraging people to register and vote, which sounds weird to us as Australians, or where, voting here is mandatory. You have to vote. If you don't vote, you get a fine, which is crazy on a whole other level, but let's not go into that. This is aimed at getting more people out to vote. And the Reach Higher campaign that he's also been assigned to is aimed at encouraging more young people to attend college. So Titus O'Neil does so much great work outside WWE. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see presidential candidate Titus O'Neil one day. Congratulations, Titus, on all the fantastic work you do. Keep it up. It's great press for WWE as well to have Titus in the news doing this sort of stuff. Titus O'Neil is the man, and he just seems like such a great dude. Like, I would love to talk to Titus O'Neil one day. Not for the podcast or anything, just to talk to him, just to be like, just to get to know him, get to know how his mind works. He seems like such a great dude and such a great role model, and I'm really happy that he's doing these great things for WWE and for, the people. Just broadly speaking, the people. WWE Raw and SmackDown this week hit new lows. So they've been hitting new lows for a few weeks now, but now they've hit new lows. The lowest ratings that they've ever had, which is kind of shocking. Like, this week was not as good as last week in terms of the quality of television, but I thought last week that the ratings sinking it wasn't reflective of the quality of the show, because the show was actually better than it had been in previous weeks. But this week, I mean, they're up against, on Monday night, they're up against football. On Tuesday night, they're up against baseball. And as I've said before, ratings are not everything in 2018. A lot of people are watching online. A lot of people are watching on recordings. It's, rating. A lot of people are watching on YouTube. A lot of people are watching on GIFs on Twitter. It's not the end of the world when your ratings slip in 2018. There's a lot of people, as we know, still watching WWE, even though the ratings aren't great. So it's concerning that it's hitting these new lows, but I don't think it's the end of the world for WWE. In other news, The Rock is reportedly being offered $20 million to headline the Saudi show in April next year as the champion. That's the caveat. So he's probably going to be involved in and winning a WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns is probably where the safe money would be. Saudi money always wins. Always wins. The poll on Facebook, by the way, at this point, we have a poll up as to whether we should be covering the Saudi Arabia events for WWE. Currently, it sits in favor of covering them, so if you feel like we shouldn't be covering them, make sure you head to the Facebook, seek out that poll, and hit the vote button, because, we're going to abide by it. We put it up, and we said we'd abide by it, and regardless of our feelings, if the people want us to cover it, we're going to cover it. Hopefully, if we cover it, it means less people are watching it, because they're just going to get the news from us. So, I'm trying to look at the positive here, but at the moment, it looks like we're going to be covering it, because we are men of our words, if nothing else. This week's Elias segment on WWE, we're getting towards the end of our WWE news here, but this week's Elias and Kevin Owens segment actually made it to Newsweek, it made it to Forbes, it made it to ESPN, and a whole bunch of other mainstream news outlets. It's always great when something, especially with such a great performer like Elias, when something cracks that mainstream barrier. And this was, of course, he made a Supersonics reference. You can hear all about it. Go back to yesterday. Listen to The View from the WWE Universe. We break it all down. But he got the longest boo in modern history. They booed him longer than the post-WrestleMania crowd. And that crowd has a lot of energy. They booed him longer than the post-WrestleMania crowd booing Roman Reigns after he defeated The Undertaker. Like, that's huge. That's huge. And he just said, this is my yard now. All Elias said was he made a reference to the Supersonics leaving Seattle. And that's a reference I don't even understand. And I'm like, why are they so mad? Like, it's just a boo, sports team. We like sports. And then Leo Rush comes out and he says Seattle. And they're all like, yay, that's where we're from. I mean, look, I make fun of it. But as soon as they say, we're here live in Australia, I'm going to lose my shit. So this is on yesterday. It would have happened yesterday. I probably lost my shit when they said that. So, who am I to judge? But it's really great. The point was, it's really great when this kind of stuff makes the mainstream news, when it transcends and crosses that boundary into pop culture. That always makes me happy when wrestling can do that. Final story we have here from WWE. Adam Page, Hangman Adam Page, Ring of Honor, New Japan star, of course, one of the starring members of The Elite on the Being the Elite YouTube channel. Hangman Adam Page reportedly turned down an offer to go to WWE. They made a bit of a joke about it on Being the Elite this week when he received a mystery package, and it was a new pair of boots, and it said, if you want to be an assassin, try being more cerebral, and it was signed H, like it's from Hunter. So he's sent him a new pair of boots and tried to get him to sign to WWE, but Adam Page just turned it down, unless the rest of the Elite can go with him. So they're really teasing this now on Being the Elite. They've got a clock ticking down to contract season, which is, according to the clock, New Year's Day, January 1st. And so I guess we're going to hear something on a Being the Elite episode on New Year's Day when we're all hungover. We're going to find out what they're going to do. That's what it looks like to me. And it's very exciting. It's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, and I'm really curious to see where they end up. And really, a lot of people are going to be very upset if they go to WWE. I'll actually still be happy if they go to WWE. I think there's a lot of really good work they can do. I think they should hold off and they should do their Double or Nothing and then go to WWE closer to when Fox deal comes through and they end up on SmackDown with the Fox deal. I think that would be... because WWE needs something big for that Fox deal. Like when they switch over to Fox for that first episode, they need something huge to happen. And a debut of the Bullet Club would be, in my opinion, something that could get the whole world talking about wrestling again. So that's something good. Now let's look at other promotions and other promotions news. This is probably the biggest story of the week as far as I'm concerned. Park has returned to Dragon Gate. He joined the faction RED and in his return match teamed up with Eita against Shingo Takagi and BXB Hulk in one of Shingo Takagi's last matches with the company. This is huge for Dragon Gate. If you listen to our This Month in Pure Wrestling episodes, you would know Dragon Gate is kind of struggling at the moment. They try to put their top mantle on one guy or another, and it just doesn't seem to work. They've been struggling for a while now, and they're about to lose Shingo Takagi. He's going freelance, and he's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He made it to the Bowler final this year. A lot of rumors have him going to New Japan very soon, but he's going freelance at the moment as far as we know, and so he's not going to be a Dragon Gate exclusive anymore, which is a lot of eyes are there for Shingo. So Park returning now, it makes perfect sense. A lot of people are saying, why now though? Why this weekend? Why didn't he come back a couple of weeks ago? He's been free for a while now. Why didn't he show? And this weekend specifically, there is also a New Japan tour where a bunch of stables in New Japan are talking about needing new members. So could he show up in New Japan as well? Could he make a real big splash in the Japanese scene and go to both promotions? I don't think so. I really don't think so, but a lot of people seem to think he might be. So we'll see how that goes at Kings of Pro Wrestling on Monday. In other news, still staying outside the US, Progress. Hello, Wembley. Progress held their big show at Wembley this week. We'll talk about this on This Month in BritRes, of course, but I just want to cover it quickly because we saw Trent Seven gain the Atlas Championship in what will become Doug Williams' last match. Doug Williams has officially announced his retirement after 25 years in the business. I hope he gets picked up as a trainer or something for NXT UK because Doug Williams is an absolute legend. Anyone who's not familiar with Doug Williams needs to get on YouTube and check him out because he's one of the best wrestlers in the history of the UK, and that's saying something because they've produced a lot of great talent. And yeah, he's retiring after 25 years in the business. People would also be familiar with him from TNA. He went over there with Magnus and they had their whole run. But definitely, if you're not familiar, get familiar. YouTube Doug Williams and get familiar with his work because he's fantastic. And now he's retired. So get familiar and then be sad that you missed it because he's gone. Also at the Wembley show, Walter successfully defended his title against big strong boy Tyler Bate. And we talked about this on the Aussie Graps show quite a bit. The Aussie Open, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher, our boys, captured tag team gold in Progress. It's definitely the biggest company in the UK. It's probably the third biggest company in the world, and they're the tag team champions of this company. Way to go, Aussie Open, Mark Davis, Kyle Fletcher. Big round of applause for you guys. Congratulations. You guys deserve it. You guys have earned it. You guys have fought for it. You guys have worked hard for it. Go back and listen to the Aussie Graps show on Friday if you want to hear myself talk about this a bit more, and also Robbie Eagles talk about this a bit more in our interview with Robbie Eagles. He also congratulated the guys and talked about just how much they've sacrificed to get there. It was a great interview with Robbie. He's pulling on some threads there that I think may be interesting. He was saying about being an MCW OG. He was saying that he's coming all guns blazing. I mean, he's the sniper of the sky, so that kind of fits anyway. But he has a mentor relationship with Bad Luck Fale. I don't know. He's teasing some shit that I don't know. He tells me he's not teasing anything. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. But I heard it. I listened back to the interview and editing, and I heard it. So go back and listen to that Aussie Graps episode from Friday. But this isn't Aussie Graps. This is All The Rest. Congratulations, Mark Davis and Kyle Fletcher. While we're talking about Progress, they have announced the main event for Chapter 77, that's Pumpkin Spice Progress, takes place on the 28th of October at the Electric Ballroom in Camden. Volta will defend the Progress World Championship against the Super Strong Style 16 winner Zack Sabre Jr. Now this is interesting because ZSJ was supposed to headline Wembley, and the rumors were he was going to win. He was going to challenge for this title, but due to New Japan announcing their Fighting Spirit Unleashed show, Zack Sabre Jr. had to be pulled from this event. So very unfortunate, but he's going to get his main event that he earned in the Super Strong Style 16 tournament, and he's going to get that at Chapter 77 on October 28. Also in the UK, a lot of UK news today. Fight Forever. They're a new promotion in the UK, and they've announced their second bout for Phenomena on the 6th of December at Prism Nightclub in Birmingham. Last week, they announced Cody Rhodes would take on Will Ospreay, and now we find out that Brandy Rhodes will go one-on-one with Bea Priestley that same night. I wonder if this is going to lead to a mixed tag match or something between the two couples somewhere down the line. I don't know, Fight Forever, something to keep an eye on anyway. Also in UK news and also Japanese news a little bit, Fight Club Pro have announced that they're going to run Korakuen Hall on Tokyo on the 7th of January. So the 7th of January, of course, that's just days after Wrestle Kingdom. Really good idea. If Wrestle Kingdom in Japan, if that week becomes like WrestleMania week in New Orleans, it's only going to be great for wrestling fans. It's only going to be great for the wrestling world. You know, there's companies that offer travel packages. Guys, I'm looking for sponsors. I've reached out to a couple, and so let's see what happens. But there's companies out there that offer travel packages, and if Wrestle Kingdom week becomes like a WrestleMania week, it's only good for the local tourism, and it's only good for the wrestling scene as a whole to get more eyes on the guys, to have Dragon Gate running shows that week, to have, like I said, this foreign company, Fight Club Pro, they use Japanese guys a lot, they use Fight Club guys, they use New Japan guys, to see them come in, Fight Club Pro, and run at Korakuen Hall on the week of Wrestle Kingdom, that is big, big news that's flying under a lot of the radars at the moment. Now, finally, two more things I want to talk about. Joey Janela's injury. We've got word this week that his injury is worse than originally expected, where last week we reported he was probably going to be out for around 10 months. It looks more likely now that he's going to be out for a full year or more, at least a full year. Terrible, terrible news. Of course, once again, we wish Joey Janela all the best and a speedy, speedy recovery. In slightly better news for Joey Janela, though, he and GCW, that's Game Changer Wrestling, they announced LA Confidential this week. So he's still in the promoting game, which is good. He puts on these great shows like Joey Janela's Spring Break, Joey Janela's Lost in New York, and now we're going to get Joey Janela's LA Confidential. That's going to take place soon, and it comes to us live via Fight. And it made me really happy to hear this, because if you listen to his interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and also his interview with Not Sam Wrestling, he kind of lives week to week. He's not a great financial planner, let's say, and he doesn't even have a bank account. This could be he could be kayfabeness, but allegedly he doesn't even have a bank account. He keeps his money in his sock drawer. So you got to imagine a guy like that doesn't have a lot stashed away, and so to hear that his main source of income, his wrestling, has been taken away from him is very sad. But he's still in the promotion game. He's still going to be promoting. The biggest draw on those cards tends to be himself, so he's going to have to step up his game a little with who he books and what he does. But at least he still has a form of income through doing the promotions. I imagine he's going to pick up and do a couple extra ones of those to kind of cover for his wrestling, which makes me happy that they're doing that with him. Last thing to talk about, NWA have made some more announcements for the NWA 70th anniversary show in Nashville at the end of this month. They have announced, of course, that ECW and WWE legend Jazz, who currently holds the NWA Women's Championship, will be defending said championship at the 70th anniversary. Her opponent has not been announced yet, but the Women's Championship will be on the line. Also on the line is the NWA National Championship. They're bringing it back. It's been defunct for a while now. They're going to hold 2 fatal 4-way matches to determine the contenders who will face one-on-one to become the NWA National Champion. The competitors will be Sam Shaw, Willie Mack, Ricky Starks, Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky, Jay Bradley, Mike Perot, and Colt Cabana. You got to think Colt Cabana's there to put over Willie Mack or Sammy Guevara in the main event. I know Sammy Guevara and Willie Mack are both guys that NWA are high on. So, I don't know, it's going to be good to see. NWA 70th anniversary, it's coming to you live on Fight. That's happening at the end of this month. We'll have more information as it comes. But that does it for this week in All The Rest. And that does it for me. I'm done now. I can relax. I can ship off tomorrow morning, get on that plane, go to Melbourne. When you listen to this, I'm going to be getting ready to come back from Melbourne. But I'm very excited for this weekend. Make sure you check us out on all the social media to see what we got up to. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at The Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. The B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Please leave us a 5-star review if you feel so inclined. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold 1! Arm drag!
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Yeah.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy. Yeah. Hold three. The moss covered.